Julantru, and welcome to Deep Space K13 for this legendary Starship review, being hosted by Shadowstar. I can't help but fill a Bilal place here, but I guess that's what happens when you're from a different era. Please, members of the Klingon Empire, the Romulan Republic, our esteemed guests from the Dominion, of course, and those of the Federation, follow me onto the transporter pad as I introduce you to, well, a ship that has more than earned its place in history. The USS Miranda NCC 1800. I hope that's correct. An incredible, legendary and prestigious ship. Yes, there are some that would say she's cannon fodder for the Dominion. Stop laughing, Jem'Hadar. It's true, Dominion ships did rip through the refitted counterpart to what we see right now, but this ship is a ship of legend for many reasons. Introduced alongside as the little sister to the Constitution class, a prestigious ship of incredible combative power and defensive unity. She stood as the protection for the borders of the Federation, a chief research vessel, and an escort to the flagships of the Federation. Fitting that through time, she would be refitted right alongside the Constitution counterpart to effectively continue in its role. Even helped to testbed the iconic megaphasers. It was even proven that in a standoff between the Constitution's refit and the Miranda's refit, they could go toe-to-toe with each other almost on equal footing. No thanks to a certain augment, which will be referenced today as well. But she even inspired, I guess, the Nebula class. Little sister, of course, to the galaxy. It's good to have some uniform design. It's good to always have a cheaper, more agile counterpart to your flagship. And on that very note, can I please thank the people that have made it possible to talk about this smaller counterpart. The individuals that hold Shadowstar up and are essentially the great power behind our flagship. Our donators, Negus and Dante Demonic, as well as Skyhawking with his work on Discord. Our YouTube member, Spike. Our past Patreons, Tribal Typhoon, Travis Games, Dark Stars Order, Cross-Eyed Deplorable, and again, Skyhawking. And our Twitch subscribers, Tribal Typhoon, Miss Future Teach, Fox Plays Games, and Lord Arminger. Thanks to their generosity, this video today can be made. So, without further ado, shall we begin? One of the first things I need to talk about is cosmetics. But it's harder to show because I've not got them equipped. So let's fly on over here and we'll see bountiful amounts of debris and ships flying about. And, if you call it just in front of us right now, the TOS style phasers being fired. With a brilliant sound effect to them. They hold the TOS sound effect and have a gracious blue look. Though the single beams look like Andorian phasers, to be sure, there is a counterpart to these TOS phaser beams which hold the I'm going to call it the Enterprise's twin beam aesthetic, seeing as I think the only place we really saw the twin phaser beam was on the Enterprise. So maybe it's a Constitution only thing. Hello, little pets. But, yeah, something nice to note. You also get equipped torpedoes with this, which are the old style photon torpedoes, which have a quantum blue look, though slightly smaller. Continuing, whoa, cosmetic speaking, I forgot how fast this ship is. K13, you really need a customizer. But you know what? This isn't the visual review, so we're going to quickly go over this, if that's possible with the Miranda line. Unfortunately, though, the Miranda is, well, for lack of a better term, one of the ship lines with the greatest number of cosmetic choices, resulting in quite the extensive amount of customization that you can do. This may even result in strange anomalies, such as, let's see if I can find it. Oh yeah, use the centaur, there we go! We now have a Romulan bird of prey. Oh hang on, I can do it one better. Pylon. Nacelle, we do... No, that's the nacelles. Strut, that's it! Here you go, do it with the Reliance strut, there you go. Now you have the Federation's Romulan bird of prey. Sorry, warbird, Romulan warbird. English me. Hell, you can even do it around the cells now. I just realised adding the Mark 1 Miranda to this has really ostensibly changed things. It gets things a bit nuttier too, because you could also say go with... Is it that one that I want? No, it's not. It's you want that one, and then you go down here and you pick not nacelles, you pick Shikai. There you go. Suddenly you're in Star Trek Lower Decks. I think, kind of, maybe, possibly. Yeah, there's a lot of customization. We even, ironically, I did not expect this, along with giving us the Mark 1 version, or the TOS aesthetic Miranda, we actually have the pilot aesthetic as well, which, as much as I'm going to say is nowhere near as good looking, is still a bleeding nice look. And if you look at it, there are some very subtle differences that are added that are just right to what you'd expect, and I can't help but approve of them. I really do like it. Personally, that is my favourite aesthetic look for the TOS one. I wouldn't use the cage, but it's a thing, it is there. Of course, you also have the original Clark. Sorry, not the original Clark. The Clark, which was... yeah, I'll talk about that with the stats. The Milichowski, kind of there too. The Saratoga. The Reliant. Yes, you've been around for a while, but this is kind of a sad day for you. The Shikai. The Miranda. The beautiful Miranda. And the Centaur. Hell, the only thing missing from this family is the Walker class and the Giorgio class, because... bite me, guys. The Giorgio made me notice it, but literally, if the Centaur is part of the Miranda family, then 100% so is the Walker and the Giorgio. Because the Giorgio is literally just a Centaur done right. Just saying. Just saying. Honestly speaking, guys, there's a lot of customization options you got with this ship. Combine that with the Defiant, all the Discovery era hulls, the Fleet variants, the Galaxy Intrepid, NX, NX Refit, Sovereign Refit. They improved Type 0 because they have beautifully updated the cosmetic changes to this. I think they may have actually updated the Type 8 as well a little bit, along with the Type 8B, which is nice to see. There's just so much you can do with it. The last thing I want to point out here, cosmetic-wise, is it's not really easy to spot, but they've definitely done a little bit of tinkering, I would say, with the Miranda herself, as I can't put my finger on it, but she feels a little different. Speaking of, the Miranda is the one that we're going to continue this review on with. So, give me 2 seconds, and in any light, the Miranda Class is a beautiful ship. Really makes me laugh, though, to think that it was originally going to be the opposite way around. Upside down. I mean, it would suit it still if they did do that, so that would be kind of cool. But yeah, okay. Time for the elephant in the room. And a little bit of explanation. Because I'm kind of going to have to eat some of my words from the intelligence review. I was wrong about certain things. I want to acknowledge them. So, there are 2 tier 6s released in the Miranda family that you can currently get before this ship came out. The Reliant has been with us a very long time. That was the Light Cruiser, or the Advanced Light Cruiser tier 6, which gave us the Potential Energy Entangler and was a powerful little light cruiser. In fact, the Klingon ship that came with it I also really liked, and both of them still remain some of my favourite ships. Now, a bit of a sad thing to say here is the Klingon hasn't got this little benefit added to it of this legendary ship for a Klingon variant, which it really deserves at the moment considering the Reliant and what the Klingons got at the time. But those were a while ago. What wasn't a while ago is the Clark class, which was so recent I can still remember reviewing that ship quite well. Gave it some quite decent praise for being the effective counterpart to the Reliant, in that not only did the Clark introduce adding the Wachowski, the Discovery ship essentially for Discovery captains when they start out, like the Miranda is the first ship of Federation captains when they start out. It took the Wachowski and the Clark and combined them into the family tree of the Miranda class. At the same time, they gave us the Clark class, which was essentially the defensive counterpart to the Reliant. The Reliant was more offensively configured, especially the fleet version, and the Clark's Wachowski fleet was defensively orientated, resulting in Clark claiming them to be the Sword Reliant and the Shield Clark of the Federation. I thought in the intelligence review that what we were getting was essentially a Easter egg to Tuvix, where a transporter accident has happened yet again, but instead of it being Tuvok and Neelix, it was the Clark and the Reliant, and now we have the legendary multi-mission cruiser. No. Let me be straight here. What we have got in the legendary multi-mission is basically a better version of the Clark, and that is what is the elephant in the room. Yes, there are elements of this ship that are clearly taken from the Reliant, but most of it is more in theme than actually from the Reliant. So let me explain right now. Stats on screen. The hull and the shield modifiers for this ship are better versions, essentially, or better or on par with the Clark. The turn rate, impulse modifier, and inertia are essentially Reliant. Warp core is obvious. The bonus power settings are essentially a more Reliant version of what the Clark was doing, by being only 2 of the power types boosted instead of the Reliant boosting all by 5. The legendary Miranda combines the weapon and shields together to get the new bonus weapons power. Your bridge officers are done by basically taking the science officer of the Clark but giving it the universal specialization seat of the Reliant and fusing them together. And then you have the Commander Engineering being changed from what the Clerk had to a Temporal seat. Originally was a command seat. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Depends on what you're going for. Device slots are obviously the same. It has the Fleet Clerk's console layout. It has the Clerk's hangar bay. However, it's got a different variety of shuttle added to it. And it's got a different weapon layout, giving it a 5-3 instead. Meaning it's got a little bit more offensive boost over the other ones in that area. This results in what we have. And you can see why there is a bit of a problem with the ship. It's released way too close to the Clerk, so that everyone that bought the Clerk is basically now being booted one, because the Clerk is now irrelevant. This ship has made the Clerk irrelevant. What does the Clerk do better? Oh, it has +5 bonus shield power. What does the Reliant do better? More stable broadside? Bonus power settings to all areas, but not quite as powerful in auxiliary and weapons. This ship, making the Reliant kind of irrelevant is fine. And in essence, the ship does. I mean, there is certain aspects the Reliant it will still be better. Specifically, tactical DPS. But this ship is on par, if not better, both support and defensively speaking. So, both support and tank speaking to the Clerk. And it outguns the Clerk big time. In fact, it probably outguns the Reliant. So yeah, I've gone straight into talking about what this ship can do without really saying the stats. I apologise, but I just want that to be heard right now. Now, seriously speaking, this is a 12,000 Zen ship from the legendary TOS Captain's Bundle. And yes, you gain some very decent bonuses. Kind of. You've got an account-wide unlocked ship that is extremely powerful and can be utilised in many ways, as we will discuss later. And you gain some decent powers just to get a TOS captain up to a good level and themed TOS-wise, so that you can do some TOS-themed roleplay or flying or whatever you wish to feel. But I can't help but feel like it's a kick in the teeth to everyone that's picked up the Clerk. And it's a bit of a sad day for both the Clerk and the Reliant, which are now fundamentally poor decisions to pick up, other than the fact that they are only 3,000 Zen in cost, and this ship is 12,000 Zen when not on sale. However, at 6,000 Zen on sale, which is going to cost you, basically, this ship costs you twice the price. It's a very good thing you are essentially getting both ships in this one ship. So at 6,000 Zen, that is not a bad price for it. You are getting both ships in this ship, plus an extra trait, and technically a ship with better stats than both combined. We'll get into that as well. So, the actual stats, now that I've actually gotten there, and I do apologise. She's a tier 6 multi-mission cruiser with a level 65 hull of 61,875. Her hull modifier is 1.375, her shield modifier is 1.2. Turn rate is 10.5 5, impulse modifier is 0.17, inertia rating 45. Bonus power settings are plus 10 to weapons and plus 10 to auxiliaries, with her bridge officer's layout being, let's just go straight for it, a universal ensign, a universal lieutenant, 2 lieutenant commanders, 1 tactical, 1 science with pilot specialization, and 1 commander seat, which is a engineering with temple operative specialization. She has 5 forward weapons, 3 aft weapons, the ability to equip dual cannons to let her really deal a punch, not that she's ever going to get cannons to their absolute optimum effectiveness. 4 device slots with 3 tactical, 4 engineering and 4 science. Console slots, X upgrading almost a must with this ship, I would say. 1 hangar bay. It's a shame X upgrading doesn't turn that into 2 hangar bays. Could you imagine if X upgrading added a hangar bay if it was a carrier of some sort? She also comes with some decent consoles. The molecular reconstruction beam, or deconstruction beam, sorry. Reconstruction beam, molecular reconstruction beam. It should be deconstructed if you take the tactical offensive route. I'm just saying, let's be fair. Carrier command synergies. Her cruiser command array gives her weapon system efficiency and shield frequency modulation. And her shuttles are the Type F shuttles. What does this mean for the ship? Well, first of all, the shuttles aren't great. In my personal opinion, they're not great and they're quick to get away with. Great if you want the TOS theme, yes. Otherwise, no. The consoles, we'll talk about that in a bit with the traits. The new weapon layout is going to give her a lot more firepower than she originally had. And she can now go for forward arc builds alongside decent broadside builds. The console layout, that's effectively where her tanking and the support capabilities of the Clark came from, along with its great hull stats, which gives it that defense. The turn rate is a major need that the Clark didn't have, and now this is what really brings the ship together. It's got that turn rate. It's what makes the Clark irrelevant, if I'm honest. The bridge officer layout actually is vastly superior to the Clark's, I would say. Minus the pilot seat. Kind of not really fond of pilot abilities, but that's just me. Or pilot bridge officer abilities I'm not fond of. Pilot captain abilities, yes I am. We're looking at a ship that is still, taking it from the Clark line, still a very powerful tank. Definitely when it comes to hull or regenerative tanking. A very powerful side DPS ship, incredibly powerful inside DPS, and just gets better, to be honest. And also an incredible support vessel in all categories. Finally, her DPS, her tactical DPS, has received a moderate improvement to its capabilities, but not staggering. It is definitely stronger now in tactical DPS. However, it is only on par with... I'm going to go with it's on par with the Reliant, tactically speaking. But it does have better efficiency in combat. So it should, in theory, be capable of higher DPS output. But this is something for us to see later. Honestly, I'm really happy to see these stats. These stats are what the Clark should have had, in my opinion. Or, sorry, are what the Fleet Clark should have had, in my opinion. Personally speaking. And I would even go so far as to say the trait that you get with this ship is what the Fleet Clark should have got. But, sorry, what the Clark should have got. But, yeah, I'm being really harsh now with what's gone on. The stats just aside, I am glad it's a Zen ship and not a stupid lockbox or promo ship. So, let's go on to the consoles and traits, shall we? Bit of positivity. Yeah. So don't mind me, we'll have my own personal variation on screen. Literally the version I fly. Have been flying for a very long time. Consoles and stats. Consoles and stats. Okay. So actually there's a few more things to talk about here. I previously dipped on it, but let's just mention them again. You have the TOS era phases that you can see at the bottom here. Now with this ship you get 2 single beams, 1 dual beam, 1 photon torpedo launcher, TOS style, and 1 phaser dual heavy cannons. They're great, but don't worry, because with the bundle you actually get a full set of this TOS equipment that is much nicer. We will take a look at that in a different video, but that's in a different video. A quick gloss over sort of video of what you're getting with the bundle. The other things to note you get with this ship, however, are the beautiful consoles. Now, excuse my build that I currently have on the ship. One of the consoles you get with it is the Potential Energy Entangler, originally from the Reliant. With a passive ability of plus 15% to flight turn rate, plus 10 to accuracy and plus 10 to defense, this is one of those useful consoles that can be utilized by both tanks and DPS builds. It has a small cone AoE with a damage to foes plus a speed and turn to yourself. Foes up to 80% all outgoing damage for 20 seconds, or minus 80% all outgoing damage for 20 seconds, divided evenly among the foes, maximum of 10. Sorry guys, English. And to yourself you get a plus 25% turn rate and flight speed for 20 seconds per affected foe with a maximum of 10. So, the more foes you've got, up to 10, the more turn rate and flight speed you gain out of this. Very rarely will you ever achieve the height of this, because yes, it is possible to get 10 foes into the cone attack, but that is properly timing control with this ability, and that even means having a very good wingman that is a control boat with you, or you will be utilizing a control build yourself, which is somewhat taken away from the actual potential that you should be able to gain from this DPS wise or EPG. Having said that, slight note on the EPG part, that tends to deal damage too, so you'll have some variation of hybrid build. We'll be able to utilize this control and damage pretty well. I do honestly think this is a console focused for your DPS and your tanks. However, doesn't mean it can't be used by your side builds as well. Space Wizards may enjoy. What Space Wizards will definitely enjoy is the Universal Console Genesis Seed. Holy moly, do I like this console, especially when used in combination with a certain jellyfish console. Dealing plus 28.5% radiation damage, as well as a plus 28.5% Starship Drain expertise boost for your ship. It is possible with the ship to get some incredibly good radiation damage builds made up, while utilizing this console as well. The active ability of the console though is probably my actual favourite point. See, the passive boosting for radiation drain is very, very nice. But that Genesis Seed planetoid, which drains and damages nearby foes and then explodes. Let's just pay attention that this ship is already boosting, this console is already boosting radiation and drain expertise, but then its own ability utilizes that boost for even added effect. So no matter what, you never have to worry about using this console at its base level. Not that its base level is that weak either. But having said that, with moderate boosting in, when activating this console, you will deal up to 10 foes again, funny enough, within 5 kilometers of the Genesis seed, dealing up to 1,921 radiation damage per second, ignoring shields and increasing each second. Minus 3.3 to all subsystems energies for 5 seconds, and gaining a +1 seed energy per second per foe. So if you have 5 foes in there, then every second that is +5, not +1, like it may sound like. And after 30 seconds, or obtaining 120 seed energy is reached to all foes within 10 kilometers, dealing 36,836.8 kinetic damage with a 50% shield penetration, scaling with the seed energy. So you achieve the full power. That's your full power output. It will also have a plus 244.1 repel, scaling with seed energy, and a 2.5 disable. 2.3 second disable. Most ships in the game can be taken out in 2.3 seconds when talking PvE. And in PvP, there are certainly situations where that's the case. It is also very safe to say that it is actually relatively easy to gain the full power of this ability, considering it's basically a huge sphere doing 5 kilometers in all directions with a 10 kilometer radius burst. Yeah, this is very, very powerful, and all you need is the right control level, or just over the top powerful, hello there, control proc, or control clicky should I say, and you can get incredible damage from the Genesis Seed device. So much so that I am a very big supporter of that console, and it's one of the consoles that gets the highest praise from me. Definitely a good console to be getting with this ship bundle. Okay, away from that then, let's talk about the traits. God, I can get sidetracked. So, unlocking multiple traits here at tier 5, you get Evasion Specialist and Greater Than the Sum. Ooh, greater than the sum of its parts, definitely. Greater than the sum of its parts in the case of this ship. It's actually more fitting to this ship than it is for the blooming clock. Evasion Specialist. Pilot bridge officer abilities or emergency power to engines grant a shield regen and hardness. Plus 577 shield regeneration for 5 seconds and reduces damage to shields by 20% for 5 seconds. Sounds like a really good trait. Definitely useful to your shield tanks. With one exception. Shield tanks ain't really going to want to be utilising emergency power to engines, nor are they going to be wanting to utilise pilot bridge officer abilities that often. Not that I can think of at least. So, it's a counterproductive trait even to the people that this would suit the most. Not a good trait in my opinion. Greater than the sum though. Emergency to auxiliary or command bridge officer abilities, both actually really useful. Grant a plus hull and shield regeneration and a subsystem power to self and nearby allies. Talk about doing evasive specialists right. Now, Evasion Specialist is an old trait, so kind of makes sense that it's not great compared to some of the more recent ones. But Greater Than the Sum is Evasion Specialist if it was given steroids. When activating to yourself and up to 10 allies within 5 kilometers, it does like that number, doesn't it? 10 allies, 5 kilometers, okay, for 10 seconds, plus 2 to 20, all power levels boosted based on the number of targets, and restores between 0.3 and 3% of your maximum hull and shield each second based on the number of targets. Do you see how that is so much better than Evasion Specialists? Evasion Specialists score for me 3 out of 10. Greater than the sum of its parts, or greater than the sum. That one gets an 8 out of 10 from me. Very useful to any support or tank build, in my personal opinion. But it's also something that could be utilised by DPS builds due to the emergency to Ox, and the command bridge officer traits abilities, both being very, very useful to DPS builds. New trait. I said it in the review, I'll say it here. What this trait, one big happy fleet, it's named wrong. What it should be named is Khan! If you do not see the similarities, allow me to summarize. Shields offline at first combat damage. Reliant used command codes to take down the Enterprise's shields. Increased shield penetration during combat. There's no shields in the way, but hey, shields do eventually come back up, but the Reliant still punches through them basically like the paper at this point. What happens in the middle of all this though? Oh, that's right. The shields were down, so the Reliant attacked, dealing heavy damage to the target, basically nearly cutting the Enterprise's neck off. While in combat, plus 5% energy weapons shield penetration every 10 seconds, stacking up to 10. And while entering combat, first damage dealt will knock the shields offline, allowing for that cutting of the neck, so to speak. This is what Khan did to the Enterprise. Can we not see this? That should have been called Khan, I swear to mercy. Cryptic, you missed the beat. Oh, and I love it so. With that being said, do I like this trait? Oh, hell yes. Exquisitely themed, with exquisite potential when put into practice. This will allow for energy weapon builds, beam or cannon, to deal substantially higher amounts of damage because, well, they don't really want to leave combat anyway most of the time. And knocking your subsystems offline, that's useful to your kinetic and torpedo builds. Your first attack, literally all they need to do is make sure the first thing they do is fire an energy weapon. A lot of them will have some kind of energy weapon on them on these torp builds, so a singular beam pings off the shields of the enemy target, knocks their shields offline because that's what this trait does, and suddenly in comes the torpedo volleys. Absolutely devastating kinetic damage with 100% essentially shield penetration. Don't combine this with a certain Deredex trait, yeah? You know, tractor beam and plasma torpedoes. Yeah. 8.9 seconds to have your shield subsystems offline, by the way, is a big gap in your shields. It's a huge hole. I guarantee that if I'm not using this on all my builds, it will be one of my main traits to use from now on. And as a result, I will score this trait 10 out of 10. I adore it. Must unlock it now. God, I'm going to be working on that. So, with this being said, and me now being really hyped up on the ship, let's take her into action to finalize the video, shall we? Come on, Miranda. Engage. Now, you may notice that I kind of glossed over its hangars pets, the Class F shuttles. This is just because they only use emergency power to shields or phaser beam weaponry. They're not all that strong, and honestly, they can be quickly replaced by much better pets. Even the advanced variation, I am going to be honest with you guys, I'm not going to talk about, because there are dozens upon dozens of better choices than these. Use them for theme, but otherwise I don't advise them. So do you know I just realized they need to do? They need to put the Kobayashi Maru in the Miranda's family tree. They really do. It's necessary. They have to do it. Come on. Come on. Show me your moves. Speaking of, let's show this ship's moves. Now I'm not going to use the pet. Kind of pointless. What I am going to do though is show what this ship can somewhat be capable of. Now that means dropping engine power down. And I'm just going to bombard these guys. I'm so sorry about this. Can you guys like group together over here please and then get hit by this? Thank you. Appreciate that. Cloaking now. Enjoy the seed. Just look at that damage being done. This is going to hurt. My word, they're almost out. The seed hasn't even exploded yet. You poor things. What have I done to you? Here, let me grab you in another hole. Yeah! Here, I'll hit you with that while I'm at it. This isn't very nice of me. Should I end this? Should I end this? Goodbye. Oh wow, one survived. Eat the torpedo. That's what they call playing with your food. Right now, considering the build I've gone for, I'd probably be benefiting if I went with the support configuration. But I'm going to go with offense just because one thing I do like about the molecular reconstruction beam is what it does. Sorry, deconstruction beam. It can either give you a massive heal, which is great in my honest opinion, give you a powerful offensive lance, dealing a lot of kinetic damage, or it can be a disable. Depends on what you need it for. And bearing in mind, looking at those stats, per counter, and you get 3 seconds. 6 counters, 3 seconds per counter. That's a long disable. 4,000 physical damage per counter. 2,000 hull per counter. Yeah, it's a lot. Speaking of a lot, hello Heavy Dreadnought. You're not going to last very long. Because this ship has so much more power to her. So much more. It's not even a fair fight at this point. If I unleash the Genesis Seed again, it's just going to be another unfair blast. In this time, I'm not going to use Spock's weapon. I'm just going to utilize you again. Track trap. Get the shield up. Get more holes in there. Why not? Because I can. Let's get radiation damage on you. Get that unleashed on you too. He's not going to survive this fight. In all theories, I reckon he should be destroyed by the output, but I think he might just survive it. No! Genesis Seed took him down. He really should not have called in those extra targets. then I've just got the prey down here, which, in all truth, isn't going to last very long when you can do this. Watch his health go down there. I'm not going to even open fire. Oh, look at him. He's just sitting there now. Goodbye. Couple of photonic shockwave damages. Get them all out. You're down. Hey, buddy. Don't fight the EPG ship. EPG ships don't like you very much. They just tend to, like, spot and crack on you. Just saying. It's what happens. Every single time it's what happens. Get used to it. In conclusion, guys, she is a very impressive ship. She is a very good ship. It's very good that she, technically combines two ships into one here, considering you are, paying 6,000 Zen to get her if you get her on sale. Yes, her DPS potential has been improved compared to her previous two counterparts. Would I recommend her to DPS players? Yeah, if you want to go side DPS. If you're a tactical DPS player, hey, there are obviously better options. Normally is when it comes to tactical DPS and, let's say, cruisers. It's called a battle cruiser. But, no. No, okay. But seriously. If I was going to score her DPS potential, her tactical DPS potential, I would say it's okay and fair to give her 7 out of 10. Her science DPS potential, I would give her 8.5 out of 10. Her support ability, and therefore do I recommend it to support players? Well, it's very much there, obviously. Support relies heavily on being able to deal out damage, but also having excellent engineering and scientific capabilities, depending on the variant support you go for. But always needs some level of science to it, so as a result, the ship does actually okay as a cruiser. I will give her 8.5 out of 10. I want to give her higher, but it's a bit overshadowed by the fact that the Clark is just as capable in this area. The Clark is equal, unfortunately. And that's sort of knocked her down a bit. Shouldn't have had the Clark come out so close to you, buddy. Shouldn't have had the Clark so close. As for tanking capabilities, again, it suffers from the same issues here as, well, yeah, she's a very good hull tank. And with some excellent maneuverability, she's definitely one of the most agile tanks you could select, I guess. It's decent shield tanking potential, a very, very high regenerative tank potential, especially as a regenerative hull tank. But again, overshadowed by the Clark, and also overshadowed by many other cruisers that can do it just as well, if not better. That are just Zen Store ships. I'm not even talking about going for the more expensive ones. I'm talking about Zen Store ships that can tank equivalent to her, if not slightly better. The only difference I can think with some of them is most of them is that they are slower. But that's the only difference. She is definitely faster than them. Important to a tank, but hey, I've never gotten over seeing the Vaudois Juggernaut fly like a goddamn escort into combat, so yeah, that's a thing. I recommend her to tanks? Yes, of course I would. She's a cruiser. Cruisers are always recommendable to tanks. Not exactly above everything though. Honestly, I would say if you're thinking of picking her up, the reasons to pick her up is you want a good balance between defense and offense, and that you are the sort of player that likes space wizardry as well as to take the more indirect route towards victory. That is what this ship is more suitable towards. My overall score for her is 8 out of 10. To have scored higher, she'd have had to not have had the Clark so close to her release. She would have to have been slightly cheaper. Or, well, to be fair, to have scored higher, she just would have had to have done one of the territories much better. If she heavily improved tanking, heavily improved support, or had heavily improved DPS, should have easily gotten the 9, maybe the 10. But yeah, I'm being critical. Cryptic, you're going to have me being critical from now on. This is your mistake for having so many lockbox and lobby ships. She's a good ship. I like her. Do you? Please, guys, throw in the comment section now what you think of her. Are you looking forward to picking her up? Are you going to give her a miss? Yes, I want to hear this because I'm very uncertain on whether or not she's actually a good pickup for people, especially considering it doesn't cost a lot to get the Fleet Clark, and you're not losing much in DPS potential. If you want an alternative option, people, there you go. But she has done well enough to make the other two irrelevant in comparison to her. She is superior to them both, which was necessary. Thank you for watching to the very end of this video, and a massive thank you again to the donators, the YouTubers, the YouTube members, the Patreons, and the Twitch subscribers that have, with their generosity, helped to make this video, among many others, possible. I said it once, I'll say it again, I can't be doing this without your support. You are helping to achieve the dream of Shadowstar, you're helping this to become a full-time thing for me, and believe it or not, that means you're also massively helping my health. So I can't thank you enough. Hopefully, some of you will be staying on board. If you're joining the crew of the Shadowstar, be sure to hit the subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss future missions. And for those disembarking, please stay safe and take care of yourselves. Until next time, guys. Ciao for now. Remember, live long and prosper, my friends.